It is 6 o'clock, and this is the April 16th, 2020 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Before we get started, we have some unique instructions tonight for our session. For all those that'll be participating in the meeting, I'd ask that everyone, if you could, please keep your microphones muted. And when I call your name, to unmute. That way we minimize any kind of feedback. So tonight, for participation purposes, if there is anything you'd like to discuss or you'd like to say something, at the very bottom of the screen, there's a participants button. If you click that, that'll open up a screen to the right. You'll see all the folks there. At the lower right, you'll be able to see where you could raise your hand if you want to speak, or if you wave or do something, I'll call your name. Then that way, we'll turn it over to you for any questions or comments you might have. So we'll start this evening with a roll call of the members that are of the commission that are present. This is the workshop portion, but for roll call, I'm Edmund Haas, Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Vice Chairman Glenn Portman. He raised his hand here. Commission member Sue Blankenship.
Here.
Freddie Guerra.
Here.
Ed Marr. He just popped on. I see him looking. Ed, you out there? Okay, he's muted, but I saw him say yes. Doug Robinson.
Here.
And Jim Walker.
And Ed.
Yep, I'm on now.
Very good. Thank you, Ed. Jim, you
I'm
good?
Here.
Okay, very good. Okay, item 2 and 3 on the agenda tonight is the work session. As identified on the agenda, item 2 and 3 will be mixed together because if we have questions as each case arises, we'd like to be able to ask Mary all those kinds of questions. Mary, I'm going to turn the session over to you, if you would. Could you please identify staff members that are present and then go ahead and conduct the pre-session?
Okay, good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. This evening we have myself, Senior Planner, Matt Steer, Development Services Administrator, Mr. Kumar Gali, Assistant Director of Engineering. Let's see. Ashley Owens with the City Secretary's Office, Cami McGee with the Planning Secretary, and we have Julian Coleman, who's with our AV, and I believe we have Kevin working the booth for us this evening. Did I miss anybody? I think I got everybody. Okay, so we're gonna move on to work session. And discussion regarding agenda items. So the first item this evening is item 6, which is the plat extension for Blackberry Farms. Essentially, this is residential development, which was approved a couple of years ago. It's gone through several plat extensions already. They are working through the Corps of Engineer. I believe they've just received notice that they got their 404 permits. So they're waiting for a written notification of that, and they're working through other PD conditions. So prior to them being able to file their plat, they need to achieve certain items. So they're working through that list. So they're working on, they're just requesting a 6-month extension. So that would push their final plat approval back through to December 20th of this year. So item 7 is another plat extension. Essentially, this was PD 297 that was approved last year. This is located on Sandy Lake Road at 121. It's like the northeast corner. So this has 5 separate lots. 2 of those lots have hotels proposed for them that were approved with the PD, one being the Home 2 Suites and the other being La Quinta Hotel. So there's a lot of landscape areas, mutual access fire lanes on this property. And part of the PD requirements was that they require a POA. So they're working on developing those documents. So I believe the hotel owner is working with the property owner. So that was also a condition of plat approval. So they are not able to file that plat until those POA conditions are done and we receive a copy of them to go over. So we have yet to receive that document, but they are working on that. So we are also approving a 6-month extension for the approval of this final plat. This would push the approval to October 13th of this year.
Hey, Mary, quick question for you.
Yeah.
The extensions, are there any other administrative issues that may pop up with that, or any other kind of filing that the applicants have to do, or are they cleared all the way through the extension period?
Yeah, so part of, depending on, like both of them, they have different items that they need to start doing. So one is for the preservation easement on the Blackberry Farms. So they have several different conditions that they have to do, but I think their biggest hurdle is going through FEMA and getting their drainage stuff accomplished. So as you know, those types of processes take a lot of time. And so they're working through that right now.
Mary, what's the 404 that he's referencing that the Corps of Engineers gave him?
I will let Kumar answer that. Are you there, Kumar?
So it's a waters of U.S. waters permit. Waters of U.S. So any time they do any work that belongs to that's in U.S. waters, they need to get that permit.
So it's part of their floodplain.
So yeah, it's two different permits. They're getting the LOMAR from FEMA, and they're doing some bank stabilization work along the banks to provide more stabilization. So that's why whenever they do work within a creek, they need to get this 404 permit.
And do those two permits at the end of the day indicate that the neighborhood to the west of that development will not have flooding concerns?
Yes, especially the FEMA CLOMAR, the flood analysis they did, it kind of like they validated that from this development there are no flood elevation increases downstream or upstream.
Okay. Thank you, Kumar.
I have a question. Kumar, did they also need to get their CDC, or have they already received that?
Yes, they already received that.
Okay.
Any other questions of Kumar? Okay. Mary?
Okay. So that moves us over to item 8, which is PD 221 R3 R4 HC. It's the Hilton Garden Inn proposal. So this is over at the Point West development over on Beltline and 635. This is kind of an interior lot. So it's there was an amendment made to this PD last year where they took lot 1R8, I believe, and broke it out into 2 separate lots. So they created a parking lot on the southern end of it. And this was to provide extra parking for that commercial development. So they left the northern portion of it, which is over 2 acres, and approved a concept plan for a hotel development. So this is what we're looking at this evening, is the detailed site plan for that particular lot. So they're proposing to put a Hilton Garden Inn in that development. So this will have, I believe, 134 rooms. It'll be a 5-story development, over 77,000 square feet. And it'll have a pool, weight room, and an outdoor plaza area. So they have enough parking. Because this is an interior lot, the site is a little bit different. So part of the perimeter includes fire access and basically mutual access easements. So, and there's water lines and a lot of utilities running through that serve the whole development. So they are asking for some PD conditions, which one of them deals with landscaping. Another one is so this is a Hilton Garden Inn. And so they're looking to do one of their prototypes, which essentially is a product. It's an EFS product, but they have several different colors on it. So that matches with their prototype, but it's typically more colors than what we typically allow on our buildings. And
Mary, in the staff presentation in the public
Yes, sir.
session, will we see the color scheme and all that for the renderings?
right, so for each of these presentations, typically when we do a PD, we'll have a site plan slide, we'll have a building elevation slide, so you can see what the elevation will look like. So yeah, you will see what that is.
Is there going to be any flow through, like you pull into the parking lot of the hotel and you can turn left and go into the south end of that Dave and Buster's development? Are there going to be any provision for access to the two properties off of the street itself?
So they're actually on opposite sides of the street. So the Dave and Buster's is on the east side of Beltline, whereas Point West is on the west side of Beltline.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so they're not actually, they're literally across the street from each other on Beltline. So do you know where the Dunkin' Donuts is currently?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's behind there is where the hotel is proposed.
I just thought this related to the hotel that's already being built over on the other sides.
Oh, no, that's, I think, a Spring Hill Suites.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry about that.
On Hackberry.
Gotcha.
We have a lot of hotels going up around town. So this one's actually closer to the 4 Points that we have on Point West Boulevard.
Right. Okay. Thanks. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, you're good. So let's see here. So they're going to share, yeah. So one of their asks is for a landscaping variance, which essentially is pretty minor because the southern part of that site actually attaches to the new parking lot that was constructed, and so it actually joins. It'll join an existing landscaping area. So we don't really have any concerns about that. The one thing with this project is because of all the utilities, so typically they have a more canopy type trees, but they went, we actually asked them to go with a lower, less rooted type of tree so that they don't get into the water lines and other utilities that are running through this project. So they meet all their trees and landscaping, which is kind of redistributed a little bit. So we don't really have an issue with the landscaping on this project. Part of the last two items that we're going to look at is PD 302 HC, which is DFW office. This is a project located off of 121 and Northwestern. If you're familiar with that area, it's just kind of west of Freeport. So this is a 4.8 acre site. It's a very wide site, but not very deep. So with this project, they're proposing a 2-story office building, and because of the shape of the lot, and just some kind of technical variances. So we've got there's a nice mature tree line on the south of this lot that they're trying to keep, and so they've pushed the building up more than what is typically required. So they have a bigger setback at the rear, which means they shorten the part of the landscaping up front by about 5 feet. So normally it's a 20 foot in HC district for landscaping, but they are doing a 15, which is pretty standard elsewhere around town. But with along 121, they also have a very much enhanced landscape strip. So it's about, I think, 40 to 50 feet in width. And that goes along with our freeway special district, which is in our future land use category. So in terms of landscaping on this site, they're actually meeting and exceeding the landscaping requirements. It's just redistributed slightly. So we have this nice area along 121, and we have a nice area along the rear where they're trying to keep all these mature trees. And they're actually planting, I think some like 75 or 80 trees. So they're going to have something around, in terms of over 140 trees on site between what they're planting and what they're saving. And they're preserving about 77% of trees on site. So one of the items, they are having to take down 2 specimen trees. So this actually will not be in your purview this evening, but it will go to City Council, where they're going to ask to waive the tree removal fees for 2 of those trees. In terms of the building elevations, it's going to be a painted concrete tilt wall building with large glass paneled elevations, and along one of the sides, I believe it's the western elevation where it fronts onto 121, they've got this nice glass feature corner. Let's see. So with that style of building, they have glass and tilted concrete. And then we've got a nice rendering of what the building's going to look like.
Mary, that's a good-looking rendering there. Relative to some of the other, I guess the only other thing we've seen is the gas station QT. But is there continuity in materials and look and feel to date?
So this building is not part of the that project across the street. That's what you're QT.
My bad. Sorry. Yes, you're right. It's on the other side. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't have any it's like we can't tell them put some has to be 80% brick. That ability was taken away from cities with House Bill, I think 2489. So this is more of a modern looking building. Yeah. So
Mary, why are we waiving the tree fee for the specimen trees?
no, they're requesting that, but that's not something that Planning and Zoning Commission can act on. That's only City Council has that ability.
Okay, so they're asking City Council to waive it.
Correct. Yeah, I'm just making you aware of that, but it's not something that you have. That's not in your purview, so you can't recommend anything on that.
Okay, and then in regards to item 8, regarding the hotel, with the number of colors that they have we, with other hotels that we've approved, have we done similar type of approvals in terms of approving the prototypical colors, or what have we done in the past?
So I'm trying to think, and maybe Matt can chip in here. Like I know the True, we let them do. Typically, we go with, it has to be like an earth tone color, is what the ordinance, calls out. With the True Hotel, I think we let them, part of their elevation was this, bright blue stripe, like I think blue and yellowish stripe down part of the one elevation. So we have done some modifications. This is probably a little bit more than what we've normally done.
Okay.
Does that open up any kind of precedence for future development?
Potentially. And I'm not saying that, is necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely probably a departure from what has been done in the past.
Okay.
Mary, I had one quick question regarding the DFW 121 office. So what's going to, I guess, between the proposed development and the existing building on the northeast, what's going to be in between those two buildings?
Okay, so across the street, so north of Northwestern, is the Archway development, I believe. Yes. So it's got the QT that fronts on Port, which is under construction. Then it was proposed to have a hotel, 2 retail buildings, and an office building, I believe.
But then the existing building to the northeast of this site, is there going to be like an empty lot between the two?
I don't think so.
I would think initially, but then...
Because isn't there a building on the northeast side of this? Actually, I need to pull up Google. I'm sorry. So look at it first.
I don't think they've turned any dirt yet.
I'm trying to figure out what you're calling northeast.
It's the PSAV Presentation Services building.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be to the east.
Northeast. Yeah, sorry. Yes, sorry.
And there's a vacant drainage area kind of east of this lot, and then that PSAV building.
Thank you, Matt.
Welcome.
So that lot just going to be used for drainage. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's just a vacant area between this lot and the next building to the east.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the last item on the agenda is a companion item to item 9. So basically it's the plat for the DFW office. So currently it exists in 3 separate lots, and they're trying to convert it back into 1 lot. So at one point, I think it was 1 lot, then they converted to 3 lots, and now they're going back to 1 lot.
I'm good.
I got one more thing, sorry. Update on City Council. So we did a City Council meeting on Tuesday, the 14th. At this meeting, we did take PD 213R5-H, which was the screening wall variance for the live work units over off of Coppell Road and Heath Lane. Was it Heath? It was Heath. And so that item was denied by P&Z. It required a supermajority by council. Council denied the request, so you will have to build that masonry screening wall. The other item that went before council was PD 301RHC, which was the concept plan for that property across the street from, on Beltline and Dividend, the southeast corner. So they did approve the concept plan and the detailed site plan for the new Dave & Buster's office building. So that was just on Tuesday. And one last item is that due to the COVID-19, and there's the emergency declaration that was enacted, we did not accept plans in April. And so therefore we will not have a planning and zoning meeting in May. So depending on how long this emergency declaration goes on, we'll keep you updated as to when we will be accepting plans again.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions of Mary while we're in work session? Okay. So with that, we'll go ahead and close the adjourn the work session. The time is 6:27. We've got a couple of minutes break, and then we'll start the regular P&C session right at 6:30. Does anybody need a few minutes more than that? Okay, I see people nodding no. Okay, very good. So until 6:30.
Thank you.
Time is now 6:30. We are convening into the regular session of the Planning and Zoning Commission. All members of the commission are present. Item 4 on the agenda is citizens' appearance, but in lieu of our standard citizens' appearance verbiage and with the shelter-in-place order in effect, the regular session that is closed to in-person attendance, but if there's any letters that have been formally submitted to the Coppell Planning Division as part of the standard item on the agenda, those will now be read into the record. So Mary, if you received any of those comments, could you read those into the record?
Yes, sir. We did not receive any messages or notices.
Okay. Then moving on then. Item 5 on the agenda is approval of our March 19th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Are there any questions by the commission, or is there any discussion by the commission?
I have just one quick item on there.
Sue?
In the work session, I think it wasn't held in the conference room. I think it was held in the chamber. It's minor.
Good catch there, Sue. Any other comments by the commission? All righty, on the minutes, is there a motion by the commission? We have a motion by Commissioner Portman. I think you're raising your hand there, Glenn. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Walker. Cammie, if you could do the roll call.
Okay, please respond by saying aye or nay as I call your name. Commissioner Walker?
Aye.
Commissioner Maurer?
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Chairman Haas?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Portman?
Aye.
Commissioner Guerra?
Aye.
And Commissioner Blankenship?
Aye.
Blankenship, Guerra, Portman, Haas, Maurer, Robinson, Walker, all approved, none opposed, motion carries.
Okay, so item 6 on the agenda is to consider approval of a 6-month extension to the approval of the Blackberry Farms Phase 1 final plat to subdivide 36.5 acres of property to permit the development of 54 single-family lots and 7 common area lots located on the north side of Sandy Lake Road, approximately 750 feet northeast of Starleaf Street, that being an extension, at the request of Denton Creek Land Development Company. We have a staff presentation by Ms. Ferone Boswell. Mary?
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Can you all hear me okay? Okay. Next slide, please. So on July 19th, 2018, the P&Z approved the PD zoning for this development. The preliminary and final plats were subject to floodplain and drainage studies. On December 11th of 2018, City Council approved the PD subject to various conditions. On December 20th of 2018, the P&Z granted a 6-month extension of the final plat approval as the applicant was working on resolving floodplain and drainage issues. A second extension was granted in June of 2019. A third extension was granted in November of 2019. So this is the 4th extension being requested. The applicant is working on obtaining the relevant permits and items to proceed. So we did receive notice that they had gotten their 404 permit approval, and we're waiting on that paperwork. Next, please. So staff is recommending approval of this 6-month extension to the approval of the final plat Phase 1 for Blackberry Farms. If granted, the final plat approval will expire on December 20th of 2020. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you much, Mary. Any questions by the Commission of Staff?
I had one.
All right, Doug.
It's very simplistic. It's there in the summary on the agenda. It's 7 common areas, and on the presentation, it's 8 common areas. So, just noting that if there's any problem with discrepancy there.
And we'll verify that and necessary. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Any other comments by the Commission? Okay. Is there, if there's not any further discussion, is there a motion by the Commission? We have a motion by Commissioner Portman. Is there a second? Second, Commissioner Guerra. All in favor? Oops. Cammie, if you could do the roll call, please.
Yes. Please respond by saying aye or nay as I call your name. Commissioner Walker?
Aye.
Commissioner Maurer?
Aye. Sorry.
You're okay. Commissioner Robinson,
Aye.
Chairman Haas,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Portman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guerra,
Aye.
and Commissioner Blankenship.
Aye.
Blankenship, Guerra, Portman, Haas, Mauer, Robinson, Walker, all approved, none opposed, motion carries.
All righty, very good. Before we proceed on to items 7 and 8, we do have a conflict of interest with a petition by Commissioner Guerra to those items. He'll be excusing himself from the meeting to avoid any conflict of interest. That'll be taken care of electronically by the IT staff here in the city of Coppell. I see that your microphone is muted and your video is off. For the record, the time is 6:36 when Commissioner Guerra excused himself. Item 7 on the agenda is to consider approval of a 6-month extension of the West Sandy Lake Road addition, Phase 2, lots 1 through 5. Block A final plat, reflecting the approved site plan for hotel, retail, restaurants, and office uses, and a detailed plan for 2 hotels on 16.6 acres of property located at the northeast corner of State Highway 121 and West Sandy Lake Road at the request of Ferguson Realty Company. We have a staff presentation by Ms. Perone Boswell. Mary?
Yes, Chairman. So this plat was approved in April of last year, along with a companion item for a PD that established a hotel, retail, restaurant, and office uses on 5 separate lots, 2 of which were planned for the first phase of development. So there was a lot 2, which was to be developed for a Home 2 Suites hotel and a La Quinta hotel on lot 3. So the initial phase of development will also include the landscape private spine street. Oh, next slide, please. Landscape private spine street, which is a mutual access and fire lane, will provide access to both hotels from Sandy Lake as well as State Highway 121. The first phase of development will also include various street improvements to enhance the accessibility of the site. The specific list of improvements was included in their PD condition as well as listed on the plat. Next slide, please. The utilities within this development will be private and will eventually cross lot lines, which may ultimately be under separate ownership. Therefore, a property owners association must be formed to ensure maintenance of the utilities, as well as other common areas, including mutual access easements, pedestrian areas, enhanced paving services, multi-tenant project sign, the tree preserve amenity area in lots 5, etc. So this was a condition of the plat approval. So the POA is still being prepared and the applicant is asking for an extension to allow for time to finalize the documents. Next. So staff is recommending approval of the 6-month extension to the approval for the final plat for West Sandy Lake Road Addition, Phase 2, lots 1 to 5, Block A. If granted, the final plat approval will expire on October 13th, 2020. That is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Mary. Any questions by the commission of staff?
So one quick question, Mary, on the POA is required because the properties are owned by different parties. Remind me again why the POA is required.
Sure. So normally if you have a street of some kind, there's typically a public street. And so the city maintains that. Within this development, there's a mutual access easement that will act as a street. And so also part of this development includes, there's like a tree preserve area. And so what the POA will do is to say, everyone must maintain this area, or everyone must, pay into maintenance of the tree area. And there's other items like that the POA is supposed to address. And so these are the types of items that you do up front. So that way they're filed as record and there's no surprises 10 years down the line as to whose responsibility it is.
And that's recorded with the plat?
Right, so that'll be recorded. We'll have to go through city attorney's review was one of the items. And so once we get that document, we'll review it, and ultimately it will get filed along with the plat. So they can't file the plat until they've done that.
Okay.
And that won't expire for 30 years?
I don't have that information, but typically those types of things are usually 20 to 30 years.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion by the commission? Okay, is there a motion by the commission? Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Portman. Is there a second? Second, Commissioner Blankenship. Cammie, would you do the roll call, please?
Please respond by saying aye or nay as I call your name. Commissioner Walker,
Aye.
Commissioner Maurer,
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson,
Aye.
Chairman Haas,
Aye.
Vice Chair Portman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guerra.
He's abstained.
Oh, I apologize. I'm sorry. Commissioner Blankenship,
Aye.
Blankenship, Portman, Haas, Maurer, Robinson, Walker, all approved, none opposed, motion carries.
Okay, very good. Item 8 on the agenda is a public hearing item. This is to consider approval of PD-221 R3R4-HC, that being the Hilton Garden Inn zoning change request from Plan Development number 221, revision number 3, revised number 4, highway commercial. I'm sorry, let me back up. That's a zoning change request from PD-221 R3R4-HC to PD-221 R3R4-HC. And that's to approve a detailed site plan for a 5-story, approximately 77,500 square foot hotel on 2.657 acres of land located between Point West Boulevard and South Beltline Road, north of I-635, at the request of Jones Carter. We have a staff presentation by Ms. Brown Boswell. Mary?
Next slide, please.
Did we get Freddie back?
No, Freddie.
No, not on this one.
Item,
item 9.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so back in 2018, council approved a detailed site plan for a 8,500 square foot retail restaurant and building on lot 1, which is just to the east of this highlighted lot, and a parking lot and revised concept plan for a hotel on the remaining property. So the parking lot is on the southern portion, and the hotel would be on the northern portion. So this property will need to be replatted to incorporate the new fire lanes and associated easements for development. Next slide. So this proposal is to construct an approximately 77,507 square foot 5-story Hilton Garden Inn hotel. It will contain 134 rooms. This is an interior lot with access from Beltline Road, Point West Boulevard, and I-635 via multiple access easements. The hotel is oriented east-west with the front facing towards Private Drive and towards Beltline Road. The entrance will have a 24-foot wide porte-cochere area for guests checking in and checking out. So that's outlined in red on the building. So the building's in yellow. In addition to the standard hotel requirements, the hotel amenities are proposed to include a pool, which is the blue rectangle, and pool area, which is the orange, an equipped weight room fitness center, which will be interior to the building, and an outdoor plaza area, which is the green item on this exhibit, which will be approximately 1,400 square feet. So the site is proposed to have 141 parking spaces and 1 loading zone for deliveries. Mutual access easement is needed to connect this property with the property to the north. So you do have a driveway entrance that goes up to on the north end there. And this will be listed as a condition within the recommendation. Next. So as I mentioned before, this is an interior lot with the eastern property line acting as half of a 50-foot fire lane, access, utility, and drainage easement that supports the entire Point West development. The site is surrounded by easements along most of the perimeters. So we do have ornamental trees on the northern perimeter that abut the access easement and the 20-foot water line easement within it. The western perimeter has a combination of ornamental and canopy trees, while the eastern perimeter has overstory trees and a landscape area that is roughly 20 to 30 feet in width. So one of the variances requested is to allow a 5-foot southern landscape buffer. While the southern landscape perimeter is narrower than the required 10 feet on the hotel lot, it is part of a larger landscape island. Next. That is part of the new parking lot, and it was built with the third phase of development. So additional trees and landscaping accentuates the hotel grounds. In addition, the landscaping requirement has been met on site, and staff is not opposed to this request. Next. So the building is proposed to be 5 stories in height with a combination of ephes accented with a charcoal colored stone. The ephes finish is proposed to be painted in their prototype colors with various finishes. As you can see on the elevations, they have it called out as there's an E1, E2, which is a white sand pebble finish. E3 is the blue. E4, which is a cedar in a wood grain finish. So the applicant is requesting to use 4 colors on the building facade where normally 3 are allowed in order to match their brand prototype. So in addition, the exterior coverage of the secondary accent colors to make up to 40% and 15% in order to match their prototype. And that is listed as a PD condition. Next. We did send out 9 notices and received no responses. Next. And staff is recommending approval of PD 221 R3 R4 HC subject to the following conditions. There may be additional comments at the time of building permit and detail engineering review. 2, that the property shall be platted to provide required mutual access fire lanes and easements prior to development, and a mutual access easement should be shown on the northwest corner of the site. 3, to allow a 5-foot landscape buffer along the southern property line. 4, to allow 4 colors and greater coverage of secondary colors to match the hotel prototype colors. And 5, to allow for 1 loading zone. That is the end of my presentation. The applicant is here as well and available to answer questions.
Okay, very good, Mary. Thank you. Any questions of staff by the commission?
I do have one.
All right, Doug.
Mary, is there any problem with the difference between the concept plan and the, just for the fact that the concept plan was included, that was just for reference? Again, the building and parking layout does not agree. So we're just specifically looking at the detailed site plan.
Right. So the concept plan is drawn to allow for the hotel, and once you actually start putting true measurements and everything on it, some of the items get tweaked and shuffled around a little bit. So, but in terms of generally, it fits the layout, and the idea is to have a hotel there. So we're not opposed to what the layout, what they're proposing.
Mary, for consistency purposes with the other hotel cases, the color scheme, they're asking for an additional color to the palette there. And I just want to make sure we're applying this consistently with previous cases that we heard where there was other colors proposed.
Right. So they are requesting to use those colors that they're showing because it matches their prototype. So that is, I guess, up to you whether you believe, should we go in this direction, or should we adhere to the typical requirement of using earth tone colors on the building? So this is a departure from what we've normally done.
So you mentioned it matches their prototype, but is that, let's see, is that their brand or their logo associated with this line? Like, for example, what if their prototype changes in 5 years and the color scheme is different and they want to apply the new prototype to this?
Right. So I did go online and they may be better prepared to
Sure.
answer the question.
Okay.
I did go online and I able to find a hotel with this color scheme, but the Holiday Inn that I did look at, there's a whole bunch of different looks to them. So they might be better able to answer your question in terms of if they have any of these constructed already or not, or if you denied that part of their request, they could come back with something that's in line with our color requirements.
Any other questions of staff by the commission?
Yes. So, Mary,
go
ahead. Go ahead, Doug.
I was just going to say on the colors, continuing that conversation, how does this fit? Seems like it would be fairly consistent with what is already built there. Is this specifically Hilton Garden Inn's colors, or are they trying to complement what is in front of them toward Beltline?
I'll let them answer that question. My understanding is that it is their prototype colors.
Okay.
Can everybody hear me? This is the applicant, DK Patel.
Mr. Patel, hang on, have a second. We'll get to you in a sec. Let's get the commission questions of staff first, and then we'll get to the applicant.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions by the commission of staff?
Yes, Mary. So as it relates to colors, so with the other hotels that we've approved, have they been primarily earth tone color schemes, or did we allow some prototypical colors as relates to the brands in terms of a number and so forth? And do they all adhere to 3 colors versus 4 colors, so forth? So I'm trying to get a gauge of how this compares to what we've approved in the past.
So from what I can recall, is that I think this is probably one of the first hotels that have come through with this change of material allowance. And so a lot of the hotels were brick in nature, though we did have, I think, the True, and I think the, La Quinta has some different materials and colors. The Home 2 Suites has like a neon or a green stripe that I think we allowed. The A-Loft, I think it's the A-Loft or the True, has a multicolored stripe that runs down one of the sides. So there have been, some alterations or modifications. But I think this one's probably has additional colors than what we've allowed in the past. I'd have to go and double check the other ones.
And then was the second question is, was this submittal was this the original submittal, or was this, did we start with something different and end here? What was the process?
They came in with this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions by the commission of staff? So I see someone has raised their hand, and Alex Strimple, but Mary, before we get to the applicant presenting the case, do we know by name who that person's going to be?
Alec is the engineer for the project.
Okay. So there was Alex Strimple and DK Patel, I guess.
He's the developer.
Okay. So if one of you could take lead and present your position on the case, and then we'll have some questions after. I believe that's going to be Alex.
Yeah.
Alec?
I'll go ahead
Okay.
and speak and let DK fill in after me. I'll pass it off to him. I would just say it sounds like a lot of the questions were definitely related to the color. And again,
wait, Alec, sorry. Kind of standard protocol. If I could get your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Here, start my video too. Alex Strimple. I'm with Jones and Carter. And our address is 2805 Dallas Parkway, Suite 600, and that's Plano, Texas 75093.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And I'm with the engineer for the developer. DK Patel is the developer.
Okay.
Sounds like most of the questions were about the colors, which DK is more familiar with in terms of the prototypical colors. I will say in terms of this overall development, as Mary mentioned, there is a True by Hilton, which is just northwest of us, like basically catty corner to the northwest, which has similar color schemes in terms of what was allowed on the facade of that building. They definitely had some blues, and then in their porte cochere, and then also they had a multicolor stripe that went up. So it's not necessarily too far removed from what is in this overall Point West development.
And the number of colors in there?
I want to say it's kind of hard to tell based on the image, but there's definitely at least 5, maybe 6 colors there. It's a significant multicolored stripe that comes down. I can't quite tell just based off the street view, but there's definitely a significant amount of colors.
Matt Steer, I'm going to come back to you on that. There was some discussion about that earlier on that being a logo. But Alec, I'll let you continue on there.
Yeah. So if there's any other questions for me on the engineering side, I'm free to take questions now. If not, I'll pass it on to DK Patel on what he wanted to say from the developer side.
Okay, Mr. Patel, if we could get your name and address for the record, please.
Sure, name's DK Patel. Address is 2009 Cottonwood Valley Circle South, Irving, Texas 75038.
Okay, very good.
I think most of my comments are answered by Alec and somewhat by Mary as well in terms of the color scheme. And I'm trying to see if I can get my video on, but it's not working. Can y'all see me?
Not yet, but we can hear you. That's important.
Okay. So, the particular mixed color band, which is true, it does have several colors. Of course, we're starting to stay with 4 colors. This is also new Hilton Garden prototype. And I think one of you had asked if I'm building a similar project or if there's any one project that's happening. So yes, the answer is yes, we're building a similar project in Dallas and a similar project which is about to break ground in downtown Fort Worth. But in terms to relate this to the color scheme and the prototype question, I think Mr. Moore had about if the prototype changes or not 5 years down the line. So the investment we're making in terms of development, we don't expect the brand to come very heavily, at least until a 10-year product cycle, to come and say, okay, we're going to change this color scheme now. So go ahead and change these colors. A product life cycle for any such project is at least 7 to 10 years, up till brand comes out and says, okay, now we need to revisit. Another thing is they don't necessarily go out with more colors than what's already approved, and they are considered about some of the city PD requirements. So this being the latest generation of prototype which they have launched, I don't see any reason why Hilton would come out and say, at least up until the 10-year mark, we need to change color scheme. Lastly, I would also say this does kind of resemble a lot more to the retail development around it. Little contemporary, modern, colors are still North Earth tone. The blue color stands out more than anything else, but it does match the development somewhat around it. I'm ready for any other questions the P&Z team may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Patel. So matching the adjacent area development, the modern look, but what about the color? Is there any of the, I get the earth tones and the grays there, but what about the blue?
So the four prototype which the brand has provided, there's green, yellow, blue, and red. and I think blue was the most subtle out of the other four. So that's what we had proposed. So
you mentioned this is a prototype, right? So, okay, this is the brand cycle that's going to last for 10 years. Is this color scheme tied to Hilton Garden Inn, specifically this chain, or is it just a scheme and it's not necessarily tied to, it's obviously not tied to the logo, but I guess I want to make sure that in 10 years, blue, yellow, red, green doesn't turn into neon blue, yellow, red, green.
No, to answer your question, yes, this color scheme and the exterior elevations, every detail is tied to the Hilton Garden brand. It's specific to this brand. So I don't see or foresee that this will go and become neon or anything else.
Okay. So Matt Steer, city planner with City Coppell, if I could bring you into the conversation. So if this is tied to the specifically Hilton Garden Inn, but then this be more or less considered part of the logo of this, and therefore it kind of keeps in line with our previous thinking with regards to logo and continuity of brand, I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my. Can you see me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, in terms of allowing for additional colors on the true hotel, what we did was they had the band that comes down the elevation. We treated that as signage. So if we wanted to go ahead and calculate some of their sign area for their extra colors, we could go ahead and do that, but that would take away from their sign area at the top.
Yeah.
So that's how we've treated it in the past.
So would it be a departure on this one, or because it's a PD, we can consider it alone?
It would be a departure as shown with the, we haven't done their calculations for their signage yet. So if their signage just meets the required sign areas, then it would be a departure, but we haven't done the measurements yet.
Okay. Mr. Patel, is this a painted color on the facade of the building, or is it a material affixed to the building, like what appears to be kind of the earth tone wood look? Is that something, a change of materials?
It's a change of material. The earth tone panels, as they call it, are Nichiha panels.
And the blue?
The blue up you see on the higher elevation up top is just color on the ephes.
Okay, so painted. Okay. Is there anything that from an applicant's position you wanted to add to the proposed application?
No, I think Alec and Mary covered pretty much everything.
And are you in agreement with the conditions as stated by staff?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I would like to speak up. This is Joey from McCalla Design Group.
Hold on a second. Okay.
Joey, he's with the architects.
Okay. if we could, Joey, your name gets cut off here, Delprin. If we could get your name and address for the record, please.
Okay. My name is Joseph Del Principe. I'm with McCalla Design Group. We're the architect, located at 780 North Waters Road, Suite 100 in Allen, Texas, 75013.
Okay.
And wanted to speak on behalf of our colors. We are with this earth tone selection. And based on our previous 2 hotels that we have located at the Sandy Lake address, we had variances approved at 5 for Home 2 Suites and 4 for the La Quinta. So we added 1 and 2. On our first go around for this Hilton Garden Inn, we were looking at more, but have reduced down to 4. And to bring a similarity to how we've approached this. So I don't necessarily believe that this is a new deviation, but rather just going with what's currently established.
Okay. So administratively, Mary, so there was mention about product life cycle being 10 years. Mm-hmm. So let's fast forward here 10 years. I guess the app process-wise, how would that go down if there was a change in the life cycle of the product?
Are you asking could we change the colors?
Yeah, let's say they were coming to say, well, you know what, we want to freshen up the look of the hotel, and so does that come through P&Z, or is it administrative? How would that get done?
I would have to check, but I would think that they would have to go through, at least at a minimum, some type of administrative approval. Worst case scenario, go through P&Z again.
Okay. Matt, is there anything you can add on that?
I would concur with Mary on that. You know, it depends on how extreme they come in, you know, whether or not we'd feel comfortable signing off on a change administratively or not.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions of the applicant by the commission? Glenn?
No, I'm fine.
Oh, okay. No other questions. Okay. Well, Mr. Deepak and Strimple and Del, I didn't even catch your full name. I apologize. Thanks very much. We might come back to you with any questions. So, Mary, this is a public hearing. Has anybody signed up or sent in any kind of note to want to provide any kind of comment?
No, sir, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Okay. Any discussion by I have a follow-on question for Mary. Are you all comfortable with the color scheme as proposed?
I think we were going to defer to City Council.
Okay. Matt, is there anything that you can support on there? On that, what's your thought on the color scheme?
Well, I agree with Mary. You know, I mean, it does require a variance, and I think they've really, you know, a blue is kind of it's not too extreme really for the variance, so it's not too extreme in my opinion.
And from staff's perspective, is there some inherent connection with some of the adjacent development as the applicant has indicated?
I'm not that familiar with the Point West. I'm trying to think of where there's blue in the Point West,
or maybe some subtlety of blue.
Point West has a green and some various colors, and then the front development that this is part of was allowed to be quite a variance from what we were authorizing as far as earth tone colors. More of a modern look, if you recall, with that large standing sign.
Right.
So I think it's going to be consistent, especially, Mary, did you say that the hotel that's under construction further west from here, north of 4 Points, and a little bit further west. That is a La Quinta, is it?
So the La Quinta and the Home 2 Suites is on that West Sandy Lake addition. I think in this general area, there's a True Hotel and I think I'm trying to think of
it's a home two suites, right?
That's the one on West Sandy Lake. We have a lot of
Okay.
So there's a new hotel being constructed north of 4 Points right now. And I believe that it is similar in, I don't want to say it's the same design by any stretch of the imagination, but the brick elements, it has brick elements and facade elements that are very similar to the Holiday Inn. Or the Hilton Garden.
Right. So we have Holiday Inn, we have a True, we've got an Aloft coming in, a Home 2 Suites.
Spring Hill,
I think, just opened. So we have a wide variety of hotels with, some of them having, obviously they want to distinguish themselves a little bit from one another. It's like the True has the blue streak, which it's got kind of a mosaic where it's blue and like a greenish yellow stripe with I think a blue canopy. So I think each hotel is just.
I would think that this sets back just like the True does.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a front lot.
The hotel that Doug was trying to think of was Homewood Suites.
Okay.
Any other questions by the commission or the applicant? Okay. So with no input from the public, Mary, I'll close the public hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Any final discussion by the commission?
The colors and the way it's laid out don't bother me at all. I think it's aesthetically pleasing. I think it's appropriate for that corner. So, that it really doesn't bother me the way that they've drawn it up.
Okay. Anyone else from the commission? Okay. The only thing in my mind is, and I'm fine with the color scheme, is just process wise. If life cycle of products, that process, that there's the ability for, at a minimum, staff, and then going through either council or if it needs to come through P&Z, that there's that ability in the future. But I don't want to reinvent rules here within Coppell, but just that there's a formal process that has to go through before any agreements can be made. Okay, so with that, is there a motion by the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve PD-221R3R4-HC, subject to the 5 staff conditions.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Robinson. Is there a second? Second, Commissioner Portman. Glenn, sorry, I saw your hand there late. We have a second by Commissioner Portman. Ms. McGee, if you could read the roll call, please.
Please respond by saying aye or nay as I call your name. Commissioner Walker?
Aye.
Commissioner Maurer?
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson?
Aye.
Chairman Haas?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Portman?
Aye.
And Commissioner Blankenship?
Aye.
Okay.
Maurer, Robinson, Walker, all approved, none opposed. Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Cammie. I would like, before we get into item 9, I would like to note for the record the time is 7:15, and with that, we'll allow Commissioner Guerra to return to the public session of our P&Z meeting after excusing himself from items 7 and 8 due to conflict of interest. So if our IT guys can let Freddie back in. There he is. Okay, gotcha. Okay, very good. All righty, item 9 this evening is another public hearing. This is to consider approval of PD-301-HC. that being DFW office, a zoning change request from PD-272R4-LI and HC to PD-302-HC to approve a detailed site plan for an office building on a 4A, 54,400 square foot office building on 4.81 acres of land located on the southeast corner of State Highway 121 and Northwestern Drive at the request of Half Associates, Inc. We have a staff presentation by Ms. Perone Boswell. Mary?
Yes, Chairman. So this property does lie at the southeast corner of 121 and Northwestern Drive. So it has both State Highway 121 frontage and Northwestern Drive frontage. Next slide, please. So the proposal is to construct a 54,372 square foot, two-story office building. The site itself is fairly wide, but not very deep, limiting where the parking can be located and where the building can be located. So the first PD condition was to allow more than 50% of parking in the front yard. And so this is a condition because technically State Highway 121 is considered a front yard. And so they're limited as to where they can put the parking. They can't really, it's not a very deep lot. So the parking is on either side of the building. So there's 308 parking spots and one loading zone proposed for the site. So there's one row of parking in the front of the building. And as I mentioned, the remainder on either side of the building. So staff is in favor of the 50% parking in the front yard request. So this site is also proposed to be replatted, which would combine these three lots into one larger lot. And that replat will show the proposed fire lane that's outlined in red on your screen. Slide. So the applicant meets and actually exceeds the landscaping requirements for this site with the following exceptions. As mentioned, the building is proposed to be located roughly 30 feet from the rear property line. So they've moved it up from the rear as far as possible. And then while still allowing to have one row of parking along Northwestern Drive. By doing so, the mature trees located at the rear of the site are being preserved, and the landscape setback along the rear perimeter is increasing from 10 feet to 15 feet along the parking areas and up to approximately 30 feet behind the proposed building. Next slide. So the landscaping along Northwestern is proposed to be reduced from 20 feet to 15 feet. So that would allow the landscaping with all the mature trees to remain. Staff is not opposed to that request since the overall perimeter landscape area requirement has been met, just been redistributed slightly. So in addition, the landscape setback along State Highway 121 has been widened to 40 feet with a double row of trees to be planted along this frontage. And then also you'll see there's some wider pockets in the southern corners of this lot. So overall, the number of trees provided is more than what is required. So the requirement was 89 trees. They've got 140. That includes both trees that they're keeping as well as trees that they are planting. And they're preserving about 77% of trees on site. So just one other item that I wanted to make you aware of, although it is not in your purview to make a recommendation, there are two specimen trees that are located roughly on the western parking lot that they're looking to take out with the development. And that mitigation cost was roughly about $20,700. So they will be requesting a waiver from City Council for that. So that's not something that you can act on, but I just wanted to make you aware of that. Next slide, please. So the building is proposed to be constructed of a painted concrete tilt wall with large glass paneled portions along all elevations. The western elevation, which is the top right one, will have a larger glass feature at the corner to provide some architectural detail. So the colors of the building will be similar to other tilt wall buildings in town, with one main color and two accent colors, but essentially all in the gray family. Canopies will be located over the door entrances to provide both shade and protection from the elements, as well as providing architectural detail. The third PD condition is to not have a cornice on the building, since it's not in character with the architectural design of the building. There's no signage currently proposed for this. I believe once they have a tenant, they'll come in for signage. They're aware that all proposed signage will have to comply with ordinance requirements. So they will have, I believe, a monument sign, but no wall signs on the building currently. Next slide. So this is just a rendering of what is proposed for this building. So that nice large glass element is on the western portion, so that'll be facing 121 when you're driving by. Next slide. So we did send out 8 notices. We received no responses. Next slide. So staff is recommending approval of PD 302 HC DFW office, subject to the following conditions. 1, that there may be additional comments at the time of building permit and detail engineering review. 2, that a tree removal permit is required prior to the start of construction. 3, to allow more than 50% parking in the front yard. 4, to allow parking within the 20-foot landscape setback along Northwestern Drive. And 5, to not require a cornice on the building. That is the end of my presentation, and the applicant and developer are online to answer questions as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Mary. Quick question for you. You mentioned that the applicant was going to ask for a waiver for the removal of the specimen trees. With regards to the overall fee for tree mitigation, I mean, with the trees that are staying on site, does that offset our fees, the fee requirements for the trees?
So that is after all the offsetting.
Okay. And then you also mentioned that there's, with regards to signage, that there are no wall signs. You mentioned currently.
Right. So with most developments, if they have a tenant, they provide some kind of sign package. But otherwise, they know that they're subject to, just the ordinance requirements. So when they have to meet the regular requirements, they aren't asking for anything special at this point in time.
Okay. And so that'll be requirements, the Coppell requirements for signage altogether. I guess where I'm going is there's not going to be like a 4-wheel illuminated, something like that.
No.
Compliance. Okay.
Yeah. So when they come in, they'll apply for a sign permit, and then we'll go through the regular review.
Okay. Very good.
Asking for anything special at this point in time.
Okay. Any questions of staff by the commission?
Mary, you mentioned the tree mitigation fee. Is that a net calculation to determine what the fee is, just for reference?
So with tree mitigation, it depends on the caliper size of the tree, and there's a different calculation process. And so our arborists went out and looked at the trees and worked with their landscape architect and worked on the fee calculation. So there are trees that they get credit for in terms of because they're saving whatever they're planting, and then when it's a specimen tree, it's a higher dollar value than a typical tree.
Okay, and what defines a specimen tree?
It's the size of caliper, so it's like 24 inches or greater, and then when you get to, I believe it's 40 inches, then it's historic. Then you have to go to city council to even ask to remove the tree.
Okay. And it's on the city's official list of specimen trees.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. But the calculation takes into account the trees that are remaining as well as the trees they're adding.
Yes. So there's a table that they provide that shows what's staying, what's being removed, and the mitigation factors for those. And there's a whole calculation process they go through.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Mary?
Doug?
Yes. Mary, do we know if this is a single user or what the ultimate intent of the building use is?
I'm trying
the
to.
reason I'm asking is this is a lot of square footage, and you have a singular entry on that north and west side. Looks like what will be more of a service entrance on the southeast. And so, in fact, looking for a secondary exit out of the southeast would be through the stairwell or the east side. So basically, I guess what I'm getting at is what is the likelihood in the future that this will be divvied up into smaller lease spaces? And would we potentially get additional direct entrances on the exterior?
Okay, I know we had this conversation with the applicant, and I'm sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head. So I think it's for a single user, maybe two, but I will let them answer that question.
Okay. Ed, when we get to that section, we'll have them present and discuss.
Okay.
I presume fire would also be involved in that discussion too, for accessibility to and from the building. Mary?
Right.
Okay. So, Mary, do you know the names of the applicants who are going to be presenting?
Sure. We have Dave Littleton, who's with the engineering. We have John Taylor, who's with the architecture. I think Justin Sparks with landscaping. Mr. Richard Crow with he's part of the developer team.
Okay. So were there either Mr. Littleton, Taylor, or Crow? Would you like to present the applicant's case?
This is Mr. Taylor. I can present it.
Okay, thank you, John. Can I get your name and address for the record?
John Taylor with Azimuth Architecture, 501 South 2nd Avenue, Building C, Dallas, Texas 75226.
I missed that. South, what street?
I'm sorry. 501 South 2nd Avenue, Building C, Dallas, Texas 75226.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if Richard needs to correct me, he can, but the intent is to be a single user building. However, that front entrance is a lobby. The big tall glass feature is a lobby. But I wouldn't foresee it ever being more than two tenants, an upstairs and downstairs tenant at the most. But the pursuit will be for a one tenant user.
Sorry, with regards to the conditions as presented by staff, are you in agreement with them?
I think that was directed towards you, John.
Which was what item were you asking about?
The conditions that were read into the record by staff.
Yes, we're in agreement with those conditions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the applicant by the commission? Okay. Seeing none. And Mary, there were no other requests to speak electronically from the public?
No, not that I was aware of.
Okay, so with that, I'll close the public hearing. Any discussion by the commission? Okay, is there a motion by the commission?
I'll go ahead and move that we approve item 9 of the agenda with respect to zoning change request from PD 272R4-LI and HC to PD 302HC, land development 302 highway commercial.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Walker. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Tie goes to, we'll go this time, Commissioner Robinson. Sorry, Doug, or Glenn. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Walker, second Commissioner Robinson. All in favor? I'm sorry, Ms. McGee, if you could read the roll call, please.
All right, please, excuse me. Please respond by saying aye or nay as I call your name. Commissioner Walker?
Aye.
Commissioner Maurer?
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson?
Aye.
Chairman Haas?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Portman?
Aye.
Commissioner Guerra?
Aye.
And Commissioner Blankenship?
Aye.
Okay, Blankenship, Guerra, Portman, Haas, Maurer, Robinson, Walker, all approved, none opposed, motion carries.
Very good. Thank you very much to the applicants there, Mr. Littleton, Taylor, and Crow. Item 10 on the, no, that was, is there another one, Mary?
We're on item 10 now. That was item 9.
Okay, sorry, my bad. Item 10 on the agenda this evening, a public hearing. This is to consider approval of the Prologis Park 121 edition lot 4R, Block B replat, being a replat of lots 4 through 6, Block B, into one lot, and to establish fire lanes and easements for the construction of a 2-story office building on 4.81 acres of property located at the southeast corner of State Highway 121 and Northwestern Drive at the request of Half Associates, Inc. We have a staff presentation by Ms. Ferone Boswell. Mary?
Yes, Chairman. This is a companion item to the office building that we were just discussing. This is a replat of 3 lots into one lot, so it will also add the fire lanes and easements required for this office development. And there are 2 drives off of Northwestern Drive. Next. There you can see this lot. Next. So staff is recommending approval of Prologis Park 121 edition lot 4 Block B replat, subject to the following conditions: that there will be additional comments during detail engineering plan review, and that tree mitigation fee shall be paid at the time of tree removal permit. And that is the end of my presentation. And again, the applicant is here as well to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Mary. Any questions of staff by the commission? Okay, I presume, Mr. Taylor, you might be lead on this, or Mr. Littleton or Crow from the applicant?
Yes, we agree.
Okay, anything you'd like to add there?
No, sir.
Okay, any questions of the applicant by the commission? Glenn, are you raising your hand? You are? Okay, you're muted if you want to ask a question.
Okay.
There.
No questions.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Any questions of the applicant by the commission? Okay. With that, I will, if there were no requests to speak, Mary, from the public? None? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. With that, is there a motion by the commission?
I'll move approval of item 10 with respect to the replat, contingent with the staff report and the conditions as recommended.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Walker. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, second, Commissioner Guerra. All, Ms. McGee, if you'd read the roll call, please.
Okay, please respond by saying aye or nay as I call your name. Commissioner Walker?
Aye.
Commissioner Maurer?
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson?
Aye.
Commissioner Haas? I'm sorry, Chairman Haas?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Portman?
Aye.
Commissioner Guerra?
Aye.
And Commissioner Blankenship?
Aye.
Blankenship, Guerra, Portman, Haas, Maurer, Robinson, Walker, all approved, none opposed, motion carries.
Very good. Thank you to the applicants for the submittal there. Item 11 on the agenda is an update on city council items. We did review those in work session. Mary, is there anything else you'd like to add to item 11?
Sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. No, sir, just a reminder that due to the COVID-19 and the emergency declaration, we did not have any submittals for the month of April, and therefore we will not have a planning and zoning meeting in May. We'll keep you updated as to if things change, but at this point in time, we do not plan to have a May planning and zoning meeting.
Okay, we get a hall pass for May. Okay, very good. Thank you, Mary. I did have a question of Ms. McGee. Earlier, we approved the minutes of our March 19th meeting. Will I sign electronically for those minutes to send those back, or do I get a copy? Is there a copy here at City Hall for me to sign tonight?
I'm going to email you a copy to sign.
Okay, very good. Okay, with that, unless there's any other comments by the commission or thoughts, I will adjourn the meeting. Okay, so going once, twice, thrice. Okay, everybody stay healthy and safe, and we'll see you then soon. Very good. Thank you very much. It is
Thank
Good
you.
to see y'all.
It is
Yeah.
7:37, and I'll adjourn the commission meeting.